Man, MVP is one of those guys where you just know he was going to turn heads the second he walked into the UFC. I mean, we've seen plenty of guys come from different promotions like Bellator and, the PFL. I mean, Patchy Mix comes to mind, Pitbull, but they both lost in their debut. Yes, Pitbull got a win, but nobody really cared against that boring fight with Dan Ige. But MVP, he came in schooling Kevin Holland in a way that made it look like he was teaching a seminar. Then yeah, he took an L to Ian Gary, but then he bounced right back with a win over Sharpuden. Now, here we are this Saturday, and he's staring down Jared Cannonier. And honestly, I think MVP is about to put on another masterclass. Cannonier is tough, no doubt about it, but he's hittable. And MVP style is built to make guys like that look lost. Long stands, awkward angles, picking you apart before you can even set your feet. And here's the thing, man. MVP's whole game is about making you fight his fight. Cannonier likes to plant his feet, load up, and throw with power. But MVP's not going to give him that luxury, okay? He's going to be darting in and out, switching stances, throwing that long range shots from weird different angles, and make you hesitate before you can fire back. And don't get me wrong, Cannonier, he's a beast, okay, when he gets into rhythm. But if you look at his fights, when opponents keep him guessing and don't stand in front of him, he starts to get a little gun shy. MVP's background is point fighting, means he's a master at scoring without eating big counters. He's been perfecting that cat and mouse style for over a decade. On top of that, MVP doesn't just move for the sake of moving. He sets traps, makes reads, and slowly downloads your habits. By the time you think you figured out where the shot is coming from, he's already pivot and hits you from the opposite side. Cannonier's tough as nails, but that also means he's willing to take a shot to land his own. Against a sniper like MVP, that's a dangerous gamble. If MVP keeps this at range, uses those side kicks and those quick entries, I think we're looking at Jared swinging at air, okay? He's going to get frustrated and lose rounds, while MVP's racking up points and maybe even putting on a little show for the crowd. With that being said, I want to do something that's interesting today and look at how far MVP can actually go in the middleweight division, because if he gets past Cannonier, that opens the door in some really fun matchups. And we're going to go through the entire top 15. So before we dive into the list, beating Cannonier would be the first real step in proving that he belongs with that group. So let's start at number 15 with Roman Copilov. And if we're talking about MVP's path through middleweight at the top 15, this is such a good start, okay? Copilov's a dangerous guy, no question. He's got that clean boxing, crisp body kicks, and that sambo background that makes him tough to take down. He's methodical, patient, and when he finds his range, he can light you up. But here's the problem for him. MVP isn't going to give him that comfortable range. Copilov likes a nice, steady read on you, a bit back and forth before he starts dialing in that combinations. MVP's not going to give him a still target to study. He's going to be bouncing in and out, throwing long side kicks, checking the distance, making Copilov reset over and over again. The thing about MVP is that he doesn't just beat you physically, he breaks you mentally. You start the fight thinking you're going to walk him down, and by round 2, you're wondering why you're swinging at air. And when frustration sets in, Copilov's style starts to fall apart. He loads up too much, he chases, and that's when MVP can start stinging him clean. I see this fight playing out with MVP controlling the range, forcing Copilov into a low-volume striking match and racking up points. If Copilov gets desperate late, that's when MVP is the most dangerous. A flying knee, a counter right, maybe even a spinning kick to seal the deal. He's got the whole toolbox for a guy who frustrates and overcommit. Moving up to number 14, Abus Magomedov. I mean, he's dangerous early, he's long, rangy with power, and has decent grappling, but his gas tank and mental toughness have been a question mark. I honestly believe that Abus Magomedov would gas out. I mean, and it wouldn't help with MVP's movement, his range, his sidekick. It would make it hard for Abus to set his feet. I think over time, Abus would get frustrated, start missing big, and eating clean counters. Grappling is always a concern for MVP, but here, Abus's cardio and tendencies to fade will make me lean towards MVP to win this fight, in my opinion. At number 13, we got Marvin Vtori. He's durable, well-conditioned, and willing to shoot for a takedown if he sees an opening. And if he could time one right, like Kevin Holland did, he could put MVP in some real trouble and make it really competitive. I could see Marvin winning this fight if he makes it ugly and keep it on the mat. But The difference here would be huge. I think MVP's footwork, explosive in and out movement, and awkward rhythm could make it tough for Marvin to get even close. And when they're at striking range, I don't think Marvin reacts quick enough to avoid clean shots. Even though the takedown threat makes Marvin a live underdog, I'd still lean MVP. Controversially, I think it would be really close. If he can just manage distance and keep the pace high, his speed and movement could turn this into a frustrating fight for Marvin Vtori. But then again, Marvin Vtori can just take him down and just hold on him. At number 12, we got Paulo Costa. And this is easily one of the most dangerous matchups for MVP so far in this climb. Costa is a big physical middleweight with ridiculous output for his size. Over 6 significant strikes land per minute. And he throws really hard in almost every exchange. When he's on his game, he can swarm guys, trap them against the fence, and unload combinations until they break. That said, Costa's style thrives against people who stand in trade or at least stand in front of him long enough for him to work his pressure. MVP's entire game is designed to avoid that scenario. He's faster, rangier, and has completely unpredictable rhythm. Costa would be loading up on the chase while MVP's already circling out, stabbing him, with side kicks and picking his moments to counter. The big threat here is that if Costa cuts the cage early and forces MVP into prolonged exchanges, that's when Costa's volume and body shots start paying off. But Costa has shown that he slows down if you frustrate him and make him miss. And MVP's movement and distance control are tailor-made just to do that. I just think the speed gap and the stylistic clash favors MVP for over 3 rounds. It might get tense in the first 5 minutes, but over time, I just see MVP just coming in and out, avoiding big bombs. And I think MVP can win all 3 rounds. It could be a 30-27. Now that I think about it, I don't think the fight is really that close. Number 11, Roman Ditzy. I think he's dangerous on the mat with a heavy top control and vicious ground and pound. He doesn't need to chain wrestle. 1 clean shot on a trip and he can keep MVP there. MVP could win by staying perfectly at range, but 1 mistake and he's stuck on the mat. I'd slide with the Ditzy, likely by a 2nd or 3rd submission. Number 10, Brendan Allen. Submission threat with a knack for finishes and scrambles, especially from the back. He only needs 1 clinch or takedown to start hunting a choke. MVP's speed could keep it standing, but Allen's consistent setup threat makes him a bad matchup, and to be honest, I'd pick Brendan Allen probably by a rear naked choke. Number 9. We're going to skip it, okay? Because I already talked about Jared Cannonier at the beginning of the video, and we gave that one to MVP. So now we're jumping to number 8, which is Robert Whitaker. Whitaker fought every style you could think of, from rangy kickboxers, from heavy hitters, elite grapplers, and he's one of the best at blending everything together. He's got that karate bounce into explosive blitz, but he's also smart about mixing in his wrestling and level changes to keep you guessing. And that's bad news for MVP, okay? Rob isn't going to give him space just so he can get sniped from the outside. He's going to pressure, cut off the cage, and throw quick combos to crash right into MVP's range before MVP can set. And once they close in, Whitaker can clinch, threaten a takedown, or just make MVP uncomfortable by forcing him to fight off the back foot. MVP's best chance to win this fight is frustrating Whitaker into a chase, but Rob's been in there with plenty of awkward, tricky strikers before. He knows how to close the distance without walking into something big. And over 3 rounds, I think Whitaker's going to wrestle when he needs to, mixing in striking entries, and just win with the bulk of exchanges. Whitaker by decision, and it's probably not even that close on the cards in my opinion. At number 7, we got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, and this is where MVP style runs into a nightmare matchup. Hernandez is one of the most relentless fighters in the division right now. He's riding a long win streak, coming off a 4th round submission over Roman Ditzy. He does it all with a pace that just doesn't slow down. Fluffy's whole game is built around pressure and breaking you down. He's not afraid to take a shot to get inside, and once he's in the clinch range, you're in his world. He's chaining takedowns together, working passes, landing ground and pound, and consistently throwing submissions. He's not the type to just hold positions, he's looking to end the fight. For MVP, the path to winning is clear, but brutally hard. And keeping it long, keep circling and never let Hernandez trap him against the cage. The problem is, Hernandez's gas tank and determination means he'll keep crashing forward until he has his hands on you. Over 3 rounds or 5 rounds, that's an exhausting fight to survive, and the second MVP slows down, Hernandez will make him pay. I have to side with Hernandez here. His grappling pressure combined with his cardio and his finishing instinct just feels like it's too much for 15 or 25 minutes. At number 6, we have Barhalo, and he's just a bad style matchup for MVP. He cuts the cage, closes the distance, and walks MVP into the pocket or the fence. From there, he just pick him apart or take him down. Most likely, he's going to take him down. MVP might look sharp early, but Kyle's control would take over quickly. I see a dominant decision or an early finish, to be honest. Number 5, Reinier de Ridder. Reinier de Ridder is a nightmare, okay? The moment MVP's near the fence, he's getting clinched, tripped, and stuck on the ground. From there, it's consistent submission threats until he taps. I don't think MVP survives 2 rounds. RDR by sub. At number 4, we got Israel, the last style bender Adesanya, and honestly, this is where things get interesting because I'm actually leaning MVP here. Izzy's still dangerous, but let's be real. Lately, he's been looking like a step slower, a little more hesitant. MVP, on the other hand, brings that kind of speed and unpredictability that can give him fits, okay? Both guys are long rangy, and this fight is going to be very patient and very boring. And it's going to be very read and react pace. This wouldn't be a wild brawl. It'd be a chess match with a long pause, like super long pauses now I think about it, feints, and sudden bursts. The difference is MVP's bursts are lightning quick. His blitz are so fast that even a split second of hesitation from Izzy could be all it takes for a clean shot to land. And since Izzy's not exactly a pressure heavy fighter, MVP would have way more room to move and play his game. Yeah, Izzy has dealt with awkward movers before, but MVP's rhythm is just different. I'm not convinced Izzy can consistently time him the way he did in his prime, and while there's always that chance Izzy tries to mix in some clinch or, tries to wrestle just to throw him off, I'm not sure that's enough to swing it over 3 or 5 rounds. For me, it just comes down to the speed and shot selection, and right now, I think MVP's got the sharper trigger. Izzy's still a threat, but MVP can keep it clean and make a miss. I just think MVP just edges it out, to be honest. At number 3, we have Hamz. Hamz wins in the first round like he always does. He would literally kill MVP, pick him up, drop him, and choke him out in the first round. Hamz out by mauling, okay? With that being said, we go to the number 2 ranking, and it is Sean Strickland. And honestly, this one is one of those fights where the styles make it pretty fascinating. But to be honest, I still lean towards Sean. Sean's not going to give MVP that long-range, flashy striking fight that he wants. The guy walks forward behind that Philly shell, throws volumes, and drowns opponents in pace. He doesn't bite on feints. He's super disciplined, and he'll just keep walking you down until you run out of space. MVP's whole game is built on control. He's controlling that distance using speed, wide stance, and angles to frustrate opponents. But Sean's not a guy who gets frustrated easily. And on paper, MVP's speed and movement would be his biggest weapon early. He could rack up some flashy moments in round 1, maybe even have Sean swinging at air. But the problem is, Sean will take a few to land a few. And once he starts closing the gap and cutting the cage, MVP's going to have to fight off the back foot consistently. We've seen in Bellator and even in his UFC debut that when his opponent forces him to fight backwards, his offense slows way down. And I think Sean's jab, his volume, and his pressure would eventually trap MVP on the fence. And from there, it's either Sean touches him up for a decision or possibly gets a late TKO if he wears him down enough. MVP's best shot would be landing something clean in the first couple rounds before Sean gets the read. But Sean's very durable. And his durability is just insane. And he's been in there with heavy hitters who couldn't put him away. I think it will be competitive, but Sean Strickland would get the win. Now, against the number 1 ranked fighter, Nazerin and Magomedov, MVP's already fighting an uphill battle, and the grappling just makes it worse because Magomedov doesn't chain wrestle, but he has great trips, body locks, and a heavy top control. MVP style needs space, and once that's gone, he's just burning energy just trying to get up. Magomedov would make him pay every single time. Now with Drakus du Plessis, who is the current champion, he would be an absolute nightmare. He's not slick, but he's relentless, shooting, clinching, dragging you down, and never stopping. MVP's never dealt with that kind of pressure, and once Drakus has him flat, he's not letting him breathe. Against the fence, Drakus would smash until MVP breaks. Honestly, MVP would lose. And that's MVP's real issue. It isn't the power, it's always been the grappling. And that's always been his problem. Wrestlers will kill his space, stick him to the fence, and wear him out. Once that happens, his game is gone and it's over. And as skilled as MVP is on the feet, he's just not a real top tier fighter in my opinion. But I just want to make this video because it felt fun and it's different. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me or not. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always, guys, I'll see you guys on my next one.